Hi, it's Michelle again, Michelle Cairns from YPN, and I'm back today to talk to you about getting started in property with none of your own money or limited funds. And the reason that I've been asked to do these videos is because this is how I've got started personally. So back in, I think 2016 it was, I started out and I went to the networking meetings. I thought, wow, this makes sense to me. I can see how I can do this. I can see how I can get out of the day job and achieve financial freedom at some point. So after a lot of learning, I thought, okay, how am I going to get started though? Because even though I understood it intellectually, I didn't have money in my account. So I went to my account and I just saw what was coming in from the day job and what was going out every month. And there was certainly no big deposit money just sitting there. For those of you who don't know, my background is in teaching. So I taught French and Spanish as a secondary school teacher for 8, 9 years. And wanted another way of bringing in some income to either replace the day job or at least have the choice to be in teaching or not. Anyway, so when I started out, I understood at the beginning that there were ways of getting into property that I'd never heard of before, that nobody had ever talked to me about, or I hadn't really come across in my life, that ways that I thought, okay, this makes sense. So I'll tell you a few ways of how I got started. It started very quickly. We haven't got in time today to go into them in any depth, as I'm sure you'll appreciate. But if you are interested in finding out more, then let me know. One of the first ways that I got started in building the portfolio was an arrangement called a rent to rent. Now, if you're not familiar with it, it just means that I went to a landlord and I said, I would like to rent your property from you, and then I would like to rent it out again. Now, it's also called subletting. If the landlord doesn't know, it's not legal. Don't do that. The landlord absolutely must know what's going on, and then you are able to sublet. So in that rent to rent arrangement, I took the property on for an agreement of 5 years. I rented it was a 3-bed house, so 3 bedrooms upstairs, but the front lounge room it was divided, so there was 2 separate reception rooms, and I made that front lounge into a bedroom. So there were 4 professional people, so not students. These are working people. I let out each room individually. I paid the landlord a set amount, which was £800 at the time. So £800 every month. That was his guaranteed rent for 5 years. And any profit I made on top was the profit from the business, that the value I was bringing. So he was happy. Now you might be thinking, why didn't he just do this himself? Well, there's many reasons. In this particular instance, he was abroad, working abroad for many months at a time, and just didn't want the hassle of having to deal with tenants. He just wanted certainty, the regular income, someone to take care of all of the tenants and take care of the property. So as part of that agreement, we rented out each room individually for £450. We took the rent in, we paid all of the bills. Yes, that's the gas, the electric, the TV license, the gardener, everything, to take care of the business. We paid the landlord the £800, and what was left over was my profit at the end of the day. So that profit was £500, more or less, most months. £500 back then, and it still is £500, a lot of money, especially when, as a teacher, I was bringing home around £1,500 a month. So actually, when I saw the opportunity here to get these types of deals, I realized very quickly that I wouldn't need many of them to replace my day job. Now, is there some effort involved, work involved? Absolutely. But it's not a full-time job. You could learn very quickly how to get started with this. You absolutely do need to understand the legislation involved. You essentially become a letting agency. You have to, go through all of the compliance and making sure that the contracts are done properly, etc. But a lot of that, you can bring somebody else, another team. You could bring an agency on board to do the referencing for you, etc. So you don't have to do all of that yourself. Anyway, my point is, with that deal, There was no deposit for that. So we got started straight away. We had to furnish the property. So that's 4 bedrooms worth of furniture, sofa, cutlery, pots and pans, cushions, make it all look homely and feel homely. Make sure they've got wardrobes and etc. So there was an upfront cost. I actually did that with somebody else in my network, funny enough. We went halves on the cost of setting it up, which I think was around £5,000 at the time. So I ended up putting £2,500. I actually put some of it on a credit card, 0%, and I paid it off through the money that I earned through the property. So in a couple of months, I'd paid off the card, paid off the initial investment, and after that, for the next couple of years, was pure profit. This is a business at the end of the day. Sometimes you can get a property that doesn't need anything doing to it. I've certainly met landlords that have already got the property furnished and they just want to get rid of it. They don't want the hassle. Things have changed in their lives, whatever. So you can take properties on like that. Sometimes you have to have an upfront cost. So yeah, like that's one way that you can get started through. It's called rent to rent. You rent the property off the landlord and you rent it out again to the tenants. So another property that I've got at the moment is a 10-bedroom house share. So not a big fancy 10-bed mansion, sadly, but is a house share that you might be familiar with from student days. But I don't have any students. I just have working tenants, professionals in the house. So that 10-bedroom house is on a similar arrangement in that I have agreed with the owner to lease the property for 5 years. So I control the property. I don't own it. They still own it. But we've got an agreement in place that we operate as if it's ours. So if the boiler goes, we pay for it. If the roof goes, we pay for it. So we act as if it's our property. And there are 10 people in that property. They all pay us rent. We pay all of the bills. Then we pay the landlord a set amount every month. What's left over is our profit. So, but the difference on this one is that we have the opportunity to buy it at the end of the 5-year period. So this is called a purchase lease option. So with the rent to rent that I just spoke about, you are essentially managing the property. You're not leasing it because if the boiler goes, you don't pay for it, the landlord does. Okay. In this scenario, it's more of a lease where you take on the responsibility of managing the property at your cost, but you have the opportunity to buy it at some point in the future. What's great about this is that you don't need the upfront costs of purchase. So you don't need to find the deposit money. You don't need to find all the conveyancing money or stamp duty, etc. So actually, this is sort of like a next level up from the rent to rent. And with the opportunity to buy it, you've got the opportunity to improve it if you can, either through the rental income, improve it aesthetically and what it looks like, perhaps add value, adding more rooms, or in this case, we added a bathroom, we updated the kitchens and the bathrooms, etc. Anyway, so that's one other way that I got started with very little money at the beginning. So another way that you could get started with limited funds or none of your own money is to work with the owner, and that might be in a capacity called vendor finance. Vendor finance, what does that mean? It means where the owner of the property becomes your investor, if you like. So there are a few ways of doing this, but one of the properties I've got, the owner of the property actually gave me the money to put towards the deposit to buy the house. So she actually became my investor in that scenario. Again, I didn't have the money to buy it. She lent me the money to buy the property. I bought her property from her, and over 5 years, I've paid her back the total amount. She's got a great return on her money. She was only going to put it in the bank anyway. So she's got a great return. She's got rid of the house. She's got rid of the hassle, and I've got the property, and I had a way of financing the purchase. So there's just 3 ways of how you could get started with none of your own money or limited funds. There are many more ways, and there's lots more to learn about these different strategies. But I just thought I would give you a taste today, and click the link below to find out more.